Not real excited to have to sacrifice to protect someone who doesn't seem to care.
The governor says he has few options left as COVID-19 cases surge, but there is one thing his administration is pushing.
I think a lot of people don't realize how sick they can get.
With COVID cases on the rise, healthcare is being pushed to the brink. The numbers now in our hospitals as they brace for what may happen this fall.
New guidance for COVID-19 protocols in public schools here in Utah, what that means and how the teachers union is reacting.
On all the school districts, I'm telling you.
A group of parents fled a Salt Lake County Council meeting.
I feel like for the last year and a half that our kids have been put last.
Their message about masks as the Delta variant surges.
Fire officials in the state of Utah are saying that despite the rain that we've just had, we're still at risk for wildfires. We'll tell you why and break down the science of it coming up.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13's Live at 5 starts right now.
This is, as I've said many times, a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
As COVID cases continue to surge again in Utah, hospitals are maxing out. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Bob Evans.
And I'm Kelly Chapman. Today, Governor Spencer Cox held a news conference at St. Mark's Hospital where he pleaded with Utahns once again to get vaccinated.
The Cox administration also announced it will support any employer that requires the vaccine. Fox 13's Ben Winslow reports from St. Mark's Hospital.
The Delta variant is highly contagious and it's spreading rapidly.
Utah's hospitals again are being impacted by another surge in COVID-19 cases.
As of Sunday, 30% of ICUs are now full of COVID patients.
That's in addition to the usual heart attacks, strokes, and accidents they deal with. Some ICUs are now exceeding capacity. Surgeries are being canceled. Hospital workers are burning out and quitting.
We can't handle it.
Health officials say the surge is driven by unvaccinated people.
Breakthrough cases represent a very small percentage of our cases in Utah, and most breakthrough infections are mild. Virtually all hospitalizations and death continue among the unvaccinated.
The governor says there will be no new restrictions.
We don't believe that any additional restrictions will, one, can be implemented, and two, would make a significant difference.
And while government won't mandate a vaccine, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson says private employers can.
We support them.
The Cox administration says it will back companies who require their employees to be vaccinated.
And those who are complaining about it are the very people, I think, that love the free market and think businesses should be able to do what they want, make their own decisions. So we're just reiterating that we also agree that businesses should be able to make those decisions.
What about businesses that say, I will not allow, I want proof of vaccination, I will not allow an unvaccinated person on my premises?
That's also their right.
With the latest surge and concerns about an even bigger spike once school starts, the state's hospitals say unvaccinated Utahns have a choice to make.
But this now has become one of the most critical decisions people will ever make. If they decide not to be vaccinated, they are likely putting themselves and those they care for and live with at serious risk. And they will not know if they're in irreversible trouble until it's too late.
Now, there are some signs that Utahns are listening and starting to go get the COVID-19 vaccine. Last week, the Department of Health reported 27,000 Utahns got their first dose. At St. Mark's Hospital, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
As we reported last night, the state health department issued its back-to-school guidance for COVID, and there is a lot in there. But the big news is vaccinated students do not have to quarantine and miss classes, games, or competitions. Masks cannot be mandated, but they are recommended for everyone inside school buildings.
I have instructed our teams to provide a KN95 mask for every child that wants one in the state. We are purchasing those now. We will make those available to schools.
You can find a link to the back-to-school guidelines from the State Health Department at fox13now.com. Coming up at 5:30, Fox 13's Sydney Glenn will take a closer look at what a return to the classroom will look like for students in the coming weeks.
To the numbers now, as of today, more than 1,488,000 Utahns have been fully vaccinated. More than 6,800 doses of the vaccine were administered in Utah just since yesterday. That means nearly 58% of eligible people in Utah are now vaccinated. There was an increase of 728 cases of COVID-19 in Utah today, and there are currently 395 people hospitalized with the virus. That is the highest number Utah has seen since January of this year. The state is also reporting the deaths of 5 more Utahns, 3 women and 2 men. ICU doctors and nurses in Utah feel like they are living in a different world from much of the state.
That's what we heard from experts at Intermountain Healthcare today. Going in depth on their predicament, Fox 13's Max Roth joins us now in studio. Max.
Yeah, Bob and Kelly, thank you. You know, Ben Winslow mentioned that ICUs have about 30% of their beds filled with COVID patients. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but you remember, that's on top of all of their other patients with other needs. And COVID patients often require extra staffing because of their respiratory needs.
And we are already at and beyond functional capacity in several of our facilities.
By last count, Utah hospitals had 395 COVID patients with 171 in ICUs. The last time they had as many patients, January 31st. The last time they had as many in the ICU, January 24th.
Every time we move like a patient out, there's usually 1 or 2 in the ER waiting to come in. So it's just this constant like patient shuffle.
RN Sierra England has worked in the shock trauma ICU at Intermountain Medical Center throughout the pandemic.
Our numbers right now are basically looking like where we were last October.
In fact, the numbers from the health department show Utah's ICUs statewide are now beyond last October. That was when COVID was ramping towards its worst weeks in Utah. Critical care tech Katie Marshall is in the same ICU.
I think a lot of people don't realize how sick they can get, and everyone thinks that they're not going to be the one to end up in the ICU, but in reality, you never know.
Todd Vento, infectious disease medical director at Intermountain Healthcare, says low vaccination rates have led to medicine shortages.
We haven't got enough folks vaccinated to prevent severe illness. So we've now run out of medicines that we use to treat severe illness.
And it's happening in the summer. Vento is most worried about the fall.
We have a much more aggressive Delta variant. That's spreading faster and more easily. People are getting sicker, and we're not focusing on masking and social distancing. And you can see what that is a recipe for. It's a recipe for disaster. And this is meant to alarm folks. It's not meant to alarm folks to the point of panic.
He says it's meant to alarm people back to taking precautions that have largely been left behind.
We need vaccinations, and we need masks, and we need social distancing, and we need common sense to not gather, particularly indoors in large numbers.
You know, the difference between what the doctor was saying there and Bob and Kelly, what you were sharing that we were hearing from parents in that meeting at Salt Lake County. Vento was pretty adamant about schools. He says the Delta variant is too contagious to leave masks behind. He said kids will almost certainly not get very sick, but he described them as reservoirs for the virus to spread. Live in studio, Max Roth, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Max, thank you. New this afternoon, the Biden administration is working on a new eviction ban, a moratorium specifically targeting areas where COVID-19 transmission is high. That includes places like Utah.
That's right, Bob. About 90% of renters across the country are in this predicament right now. And this comes after days of backlash against the moratorium being allowed to expire over the weekend.
Fox's Caroline Shively has details on what could be a game changer for those on the brink of eviction.
Tuesday afternoon, President Joe Biden said he has asked the CDC to help renters in America who are facing eviction after a moratorium expired over the weekend.
I've sought out constitutional scholars to determine what is the best possibility that would come from executive action or the CDC's judgment. What could they do that was most likely to pass muster constitutionally?
More than 6 million renters across the U.S. are behind in their payments, according to Moody's data.
That's putting a lot of financial hardship on these families. So if they're not able to pay their rent, then of course the landlords are going to try to evict them.
The CDC under the Trump administration put the moratorium in place because of the COVID pandemic, and President Biden extended it. But landlords challenged the order, saying they need to pay their own bills.
I'm owed over $65,000. I know that I can sue or go through litigation in court, but I do not expect any of that money.
Congress has approved $36 billion for emergency rent aid, but Republicans point out only a very small percentage of it has been distributed.
When people do get evicted, it is because of the incompetence of this administration and the Democrats that are running Washington.
Even with this new moratorium, White House officials say they've asked states to do everything possible to get unused funds to renters and landlords.
We're really pressing states to get this money out and to extend the eviction moratorium.
Without intervention, the problem could get worse. The Census Bureau reported as of a month ago, 3.6 million people said they faced eviction by early September. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox 13 News, Utah.
I tell you, it's been a while since we have said it's dry statewide, right?
Right?
Really, for the past 2 weeks, we've had some severe flooding.
Finally, we're out of that pattern, you know?
What's to come, Breck?
Well, this monsoon moisture moving away, and at least for now, we're keeping the sun around and warming temperatures up. Seen currently southwestern Utah. As we saw yesterday, the sun shines, so opportunities to do hiking, whether it be in the morning or in the afternoon, it's good to go. Of course, we've been recommending and advising to avoid those areas during the afternoon across southern Utah because of the flash flood concerns, but it's just not a concern today. Southeastern Utah, Moab right now, you're looking at clear conditions. Northern Utah, we're seeing smoke funneling in out of the west and air quality being impacted. Taking a look at your current air quality where it has been decreasing. Earlier this morning, we were in the good category green, but it's been changing throughout the day. Now, moderate and in some locations, unhealthy. We're kind of on that borderline as that flow out of the west where, yeah, one day a break from the storms. Now we're contending with the smoke as we're seeing that situation through central and southwestern Utah. Highs today, though, and temperatures below normal. We're in the 80s to low 90s for many locations. Temperatures by about 5 degrees below normal and definitely warmer than yesterday. So we're heating up. Do we see a string of triple-digit temperatures coming back into the forecast? I'll answer that coming up in just a bit.
Breck, see you soon. Thank you. Still to come, the National Night Out Against Crime is back in Utah. The event's tonight for you to interact with police officers.
Plus, if you've ever wanted to put your driver's license on your smartphone, well, now you can. How you can get a hold of one tomorrow.
Things you need to know if you are cleaning up floodwater to make sure you don't get sick.
Tonight, neighbors in Salt Lake City will be spending time getting to know the police officers whose job it is to protect them. It's called National Night Out, and it's held every year on the first Tuesday in August. The Salt Lake Police Department is anxious to network with neighbors after last year's summer events were canceled because of the pandemic. They'll talk about crime in certain communities and ways to prevent it, such as community engagement. The idea is for police to build a positive relationship with people and businesses, especially after a very tough year.
There's always areas of opportunity that we can learn from, and we can come together and learn from the past and continue to build a strong future with the community and maintain that positive interaction and just continue to move forward and build that trust within the police department and the neighborhoods.
Now, the West Point and Jordan Meadows communities kick things off with a parade at 4 this afternoon. But that's not the only event happening tonight. There is also a get-together at the Pioneer Police Precinct at 1040 West, 7th South from 6 to 9 p.m. And then there's another gathering at Smith's Ballpark tonight from 6 to 8.
Harmons is the first supermarket chain in the entire country to accept and also encourage the use of electronic driver licenses. The technology puts your driver's license right onto your smartphone. Very convenient. Harmons expressed interest from the very beginning, realizing this is likely the future in terms of contactless verification. Once you download a couple of apps, staff with the driver license division will then transfer your license onto your phone.
The mobile driver's license is the kind of the natural move for the driver's license. Just as our credit cards and payment processes have moved to our phone, the driver's license is now moving to the phone.
If you're interested in having a driver's license in your smartphone, you can actually do so at the Harmons at City Creek, as well as Traverse Mountain, and you can do so tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
He continues to deny any wrongdoing, but the calls for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo to resign continue to increase. What President Biden has to say. Just into the Fox 13 newsroom, water has been shut off to some homes in Eagle Mountain because of a water main break. The city says it happened in the 3000 block of East Cedar Pass Road. Homes between SR 73 and Valley Drive will be without water for the next several hours. In national news, calls for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo to resign are growing louder after the New York Attorney General's office revealed Cuomo sexually assaulted multiple women.
The results of the months-long probe were released this morning, detailing disturbing things like inappropriate kisses, touching, and sexual remarks toward at least 11 accusers. Late this afternoon, President Joe Biden commented on this scandal.
Are you now calling on him to resign?
Yes.
And if he doesn't resign, do you believe he should be impeached and removed from office?
Let's take one thing at a time here. I think he should resign.
Governor Cuomo continues to deny any wrongdoing. His political fate now in the hands of New York's Democrat-controlled state assembly, which is looking into possible impeachment.
A suspect and a police officer are dead after a shooting outside the Pentagon this morning. It happened at a bus platform used by thousands of Pentagon workers coming and going from the building. Local media outlets report the officer was stabbed and the suspect was shot and killed by police. Several other people were hurt. The Pentagon was temporarily put on lockdown. Authorities are not looking for any other suspects.
U.S. Army personnel are helping to fight a massive wildfire on Hawaii's Big Island. Authorities there say the fire stretches more than 62 square miles. It is the largest wildfire ever recorded there. Now, the flames did cause evacuations over the weekend, but those orders were lifted on Sunday night. Soldiers are lighting backfires to burn away dry grass and brush. Military aircraft are also being used to help contain the flames.
Well, I'll tell you, all the moisture we've been having is really a double-edged sword because grasses are going to grow now that the sun is coming out, and that is just more fuel for more wildfires.
It really is, and we're going to have a period now moving to a dry trend in that we're not worried about the rain, but things do dry out, and we're going to be kicking up some winds, particularly as we go Thursday into Friday. So that's something of focus. Of course, we haven't been seeing any red flag warnings, fire weather warnings or watches. That has not been the scene. It's been the flooding concerns, which has not been an issue here across the state. As we show you right now in St. George, we've got mostly sunny skies, a little bit of smoke, across western, southwestern Utah, even portions of northern Utah. We've seen that smoke increase. We get one day a break from the storms, and now we bring back in that smoke. We're going to be talking about that impact and where it's going moving ahead. Now, temperatures triple digits in St. George. Northern Utah, another day where temperatures and afternoon highs are below normal. We're in the upper 80s, so we haven't cracked back into the 90s as of yet. Winds out of the west, northwest at 7 miles per hour. It's a little breezy here throughout the afternoon. I want to give you an update. People have been asking me, saying, wow, we got all this rain, this flooding. Is it helping out the reservoirs, allowing water levels to increase just a little bit? Let me give you a situation here looking towards Lake Powell. Notice the first two lines there, green and blue. The blue is average, where you can now look at the cycle where we start the water year in October. Throughout the winter, the output and the water flows away, and then we get the spring runoff. We see an increase, and then it starts tailing back, and we start getting that output. Now, for this year in pink, we started off below average water levels, and it just went down, 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 down through the spring, a little bump up, and then it continued to go down. We haven't seen a bump up from the rain. No uptick. We've seen the slow, but we still have more output than input. And so it didn't do much there. Really, it takes the winter months. It takes this building up of snow, that snowpack, and that spring runoff to help out with water levels at the reservoirs. Now, looking ahead, we're not seeing a risk of afternoon thunderstorms or rain or flooding tomorrow. It's all good, not expected. Now let's talk about the smoke situation across northern Utah, where we're seeing the smoke throughout northern west central Utah, especially today. As we see that westerly flow, it will begin to change with an approaching front. coming in out of the southwest that will move the smoke away, so we do not see an extended period where we're seeing smoke increasing or air quality continue to be an issue, which is good news. But when we get to that southwest flow ahead of that front, we'll be kicking up the winds, and we'll see what that will do with our fire weather concerns again as we go into Thursday. Now, right now, we look across the state. It is dry as sunny. A few clouds will be tracking in, particularly as we look towards northwestern Utah. We might see an isolated shower near the Utah-Idaho border, but as far as any intense thunderstorms, we just don't see it, where, again, the position of the high pressure, that clockwise rotation, keeping the dry air coming in, that westerly flow tapping into the smoke and pushing the moisture away, keeping it throughout Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico, and not throughout the state. So clear conditions overnight. We've got clear skies. There's still a little bit of smoke around. Overnight lows in the 50s and 60s. Tomorrow, it's warmer. We're back into the 90s. Temperatures close to normal. You're not seeing the raindrops. You get the sunshine. A little hazy and smoky, though, but hopefully you start to see some improvements once we get into Thursday, where it's just going to get kind of hot, but then that front moves in. Temperatures drop. We keep it dry through the weekend, and temperatures returning to about 100 degrees. Northern Utah, it's 90s. Hot on Thursday. Front hits, drops temperatures. We'll kind of keep temperatures about where they should be for this time of year. And again, we don't see that monsoon moisture returning here over the next 7 days.
While we're trying to encourage people to adhere to health guidance, families certainly have a responsibility to choose to do so on their own.
Kids are heading back to school in Utah very soon. We're looking inside the classroom to see what protocols are staying and what COVID-19 protocols are going away.
Dry fuel conditions all across the state of Utah are increasing our fire risks. But how much good did the recent rainstorm do? We'll answer that question straight ahead.
In today's Money Watch, Americans apparently spent lots of time shopping during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Shopping's become so convenient
It
now. You can do
has.
it from your own phone.
Yep.
The U.S. household debt jumped to $15 trillion last quarter. That is the biggest quarterly hike since 2007 and the largest percentage increase in nearly 8 years. Credit card balances increased by $17 billion during the second quarter, while auto loan balances rose by $33 billion. Mortgage debt jumped to $10.4 trillion, and student loans were the only debt category that saw a decline last quarter.
For the third day in a row, Spirit Airlines is facing significant disruptions. The low-cost carrier has canceled or delayed nearly 300 flights as of this morning. Aviation tracking website FlightAware says that's 40% of Spirit's schedule. There are reports of violence at the airport in San Juan, Puerto Rico, where stranded passengers broke computers, assaulted gate agents, and tried to break into a jetway. Spirit says the issues stem from weather and operational challenges. Social media accounts suggest some travelers are still waiting to be rescheduled from weekend cancellations.
Fortune has released its list of the 500 biggest companies all around the world. Walmart coming in at #1, really no big surprise. It has claimed the top spot on the list for the past 8 years in a row now. Another retailer is gaining momentum, however. Amazon landed in 3rd place this year. It is a big leap from 9th place in 2020, but neither company was the world's most profitable. That title goes to Apple, which netted $57 billion in profits.
Wow. Well, U.S. stocks advanced broadly today, bouncing back from earlier losses. A solid earnings season has helped bolster investor optimism. The Dow gained 278 points to close at 35,116. The Nasdaq added 80, and the S&P rose 36 for another record high.
The floodwater may be gone, but that does not mean the potential danger has gone away too. The impact it could have on your health. Coming up.
And incredible video in southern Utah. A semi goes up in flames on I-15. What troopers are now saying about this terrifying scene on the highway.
We're going to be highly encouraging mask wearing and vaccinations.
Utah children will be heading back to school in just a few weeks from now. And while COVID-19 will still be top of mind, We will not see the strict guidelines we did so last academic school year.
Fox 13's Sydney Glenn takes us inside a Granite School District classroom to see what parents, students, and teachers can expect.
What you won't see this year is every desk being 6 feet apart or plexiglass in front of every teacher's desk. But what you will see again this year is everyone being asked to be mindful of the spread of COVID-19. This kindergarten classroom will soon be filled with kids, sitting at these desks, having story time in this nook. But it won't be totally normal.
Especially in a classroom like this, cohorts, a lot of cohorts. And what we mean by that is keeping kids together in groups.
Ben Horsley with Granite School District says they are following the Utah Department of Health's new COVID-19 guidelines.
We're going to be highly encouraging mask wearing and vaccinations.
Kids will likely sit by the same people all year and won't be participating in large group activities.
They'll be with that same group of students going into the lunchroom, and they'll be with that same group of students out on the playground areas.
Now, there will still be extra cleaning, just not as much.
As rigorous as it was last year, I don't think will be the case.
The president of the American Federation of Teachers Utah chapter says they aren't happy with the new guidelines put out by the state health department. Instead, they were hoping to see mask and vaccine mandates.
We would have liked to see more of a firm stand for the Department of Health to look at mask mandates and then take that to legislative committee and say this is what we need.
He says he has seen more support for a mask mandate this year from teachers.
Mainly because of the severity of the variants and the effect that it's having on those that are unvaccinated.
What everyone can agree on is wanting the kids that will sit in here and in every Utah classroom to be safe. At this point, it is clear there will be no statewide mask mandate. However, recently, Speaker Brad Wilson said that at the local level, health departments can work with local government to implement a mask mandate in schools in their area. In Salt Lake City, Sydney Glenn, Fox 13 News, Utah.
On all the school districts, and they don't care about our kids.
Today's meeting of the Salt Lake County Council got heated as dozens of parents spoke out against any possible mask mandates.
As the clock ticks toward the start of the new school year, a tug of war is taking place over masks in the classroom.
Fox 13's John Franke is live at the Salt Lake County Complex with the latest. John.
Well, hey guys, first want to be clear that there is no voting item on the agenda here in Salt Lake County that deals with a mask mandate. As Sydney alluded to moments ago, the process works like this. The county health department can issue that mandate. That would either be rejected or accepted by the county council, and we're just not at that point yet. But that did not stop dozens of parents, many with the Utah Parents United campaign, from crowding the council conference room today to say they don't want another year of a mandate. Now, the council allowed every person to speak, and we also heard from Dr. Angela Dunn. She is now the director of the Salt Lake County Health Department. She said with the case rate where it is right now, if measures are not taken when school starts, countywide, about 60 kids under the age of 12 will get sick with COVID every day, and that would lead to at least one child hospitalized every other day. First, we'll hear from parents, then Dr. Dunn.
For those in the audience who spoke and said, I'm worried for my children, well, why? Why are you worried? They're not going to die.
What are we protecting against, and who are we trying to save? The people who have had the opportunity to have the vaccines, they've had them.
We have two options in front of us. We can be reactive. We can go on as we've been going on. We can let kids go to school. We can wait and see the case increase, the hospitalized kids, and likely the fatalities, and then do something about it. Or we can be proactive. We can apply the lessons we learned from fall of 2020 to fall of 2021 and keep kids in school safely so that they can be engaged in in-person learning.
And Dr. Dunn added that every district in Salt Lake County right now has a very high spread of the virus. Meanwhile, several council members indicated that if this does come up to a vote for a mandate, they would actually vote against that mandate. Now, when Dr. Angela Dunn left that conference room, she was confronted by several parents there who wanted to have their say face-to-face with her. Reporting live tonight in Salt Lake County, John Franke, Fox 13 News, Utah.
John, thank you. Organizers of the Sundance Film Festival have announced that all attendees of the festival come next January must be fully vaccinated.
The festival's director released a letter this morning announcing the news for now to ensure everyone who wants to attend in person is comfortable. Also to allow people to adjust their travel plans if need be. Organizers say details on theater capacity and mask wearing will be announced at a later date as health and safety protocols continue to be updated.
We have an update on a story we brought you last night. The Emery County Sheriff's Office has identified the minor killed in Sunday night's flash flooding as 48-year-old Gary Nelson. The Fairview resident had worked at the Gentry Mountain Mine for the past 10 years. He was leaving work with his colleagues when he was swept away by the floodwaters. Nelson leaves behind a wife and 3 daughters. We've posted a link to a GoFundMe page for them on our website, fox13now.com. As hundreds of Utahns clean up from flash flooding, they face another danger.
As the waters begin to recede and things begin to dry out, what's left behind is contaminated and may begin to grow mold. Fox 13's Haley Higgins reports on the health concerns flood victims should really pay attention to.
Across the state, basements and businesses dry out after flash flooding. While the water may be gone, what's often left behind could be just as dangerous.
They would want to remove any item that was saturated with water, say like your carpeting, your padding, couches, mattresses.
Floodwater can be a mixture of storm runoff, secondary water, or even raw sewage. Davis County Health Department recommends rubber boots, gloves, goggles, and N95 masks for anyone interacting with floodwater.
Everything we've seen is 24 to 48 hours, like as quick as you can. Dry it out as fast as you can to prevent mold growth.
Mold spores can become airborne and then inhaled. While it affects everyone differently, people can suffer upper respiratory problems. Symptoms can be worse for those with mold allergies or asthma. Health experts say it's also important to wash off completely after you've been in and around floodwater to prevent potential illness. Reporting in Bountiful, Haley Higgins, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Take a look at this incredible video. It comes from the Utah Highway Patrol. It's a fiery semi-truck crash that happened early this morning. At first glance, you can't even tell what this is.
Oh, yeah.
Troopers say the semi-truck drove off of I-15 near the town of Summit. That's between Cedar City and Parowan. That truck then burst into flames. Troopers say the driver was wearing a seatbelt and was able to get himself out before the semi-cab became fully engulfed in flames. Yeah, thankfully. The driver is now hospitalized with serious injuries.
Still to come, there's a new housing opportunity for University of Utah students. See what the project's manager has to say about what students can expect.
And we got the rain. Now we see a break. When should you run your sprinklers next? I'll let you know after the break. We're back in 60 seconds.
Southern Utah University is now offering help for survivors of human trafficking as they work to move on with their lives. The school worked with private donors and the Utah-based Maloof Foundation to create the Juniper Scholarship. Survivors can use the money to earn a college degree through SUU's online Speedway program, which offers a Bachelor's of General Studies degree. Right now, there are 3 scholarships available, but the Maloof Foundation hopes to expand that to at least 20.
We love that idea of just a strong survivor, somebody that is really moves forward and works hard and is able to overcome difficult circumstances. So even though the situations that they've had and dealt with in their lives are very difficult, the hope is that they can thrive and grow despite that.
Applicants must be accepted into SUU's General Studies program, submit a copy of their high school diploma or GED, complete a short personal essay, and submit a third-party referral from a doctor, therapist, or social worker. Applications will soon be accepted online. We have a link at fox13now.com.
A partnership between the University of Utah, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and the Ivory Foundation is bringing some new student housing to the U. The church helped the foundation get a lease for the land at 1780 East South Campus Drive, Where a chapel currently stands, the Ivory University House will have 4 apartment buildings. Construction is scheduled to begin once the chapel is demolished. Today on Fox 13 News Live at noon, we went in depth to speak with the project manager about what future students can expect from this housing.
These are individual studio units, and we really wanted to make sure that students had the opportunity to control what their environment was, but we really are placing an emphasis on these students to be able to go out in the hallways and get that much needed face-to-face. So each student will have their own bedroom, bathroom, and a kitchen and kitchenette.
Sounds good to me. Individual units with your own bathroom and kitchenette.
Hey, let's go back to college.
The plan was considered by the Salt Lake City Council last week, and it is said to be close to approval. Units are expected to be available for the fall semester of 2023.
It did help out just a little bit, but it won't for long.
Still to come, we'll break down what all the recent rainfall is doing for our wildfire season.
It's a new era for the Utah women's soccer team. We'll hear from the Utes' new coach coming up in sports. And one day after re-signing Mike Conley, the Jazz have signed his old Memphis teammate, Rudy Gay. I'll tell you about the new Jazz player.
Probably already likes him.
As of today, the city of Provo is back to stage 1 fire restrictions instead of stage 2, thanks to all the rain. This means you are allowed to build a fire or have a stove fire, but only if it's in a constructed permanent fire pit or fire grate within developed campgrounds. Smoking is also allowed, but limited.
I think you know this. Utah's storms have really drenched a lot of the state over the past week, but how much has it affected wildfire danger?
Fox 13's Spencer Joseph asked the Unified Fire Authority that very question.
Unified Fire's Ryan Love is looking at the dry brush near Fire Station 126 in Midvale.
Could potentially spread fairly quickly.
It's a dry plot that symbolizes a lot of the types of things that could potentially burn in Utah. And it's a way to illustrate how much the recent storm has helped our fire danger.
It did help out just a little bit, but it won't for long.
Think of fire danger as a clock that resets itself every time it rains. The clock then starts counting down until our fuel gets dry again. And there are different clocks for different kinds of material to burn.
Cheatgrass, light fuels. We also have large timber in our areas as well. We divide those up into different categories.
Categories based on how long it takes them to dry out again. 10-hour fuels, things like cheatgrass. 100-hour fuels, and 1,000-hour fuels, like heavy timber. This map shows the moisture of 100-hour fuels on June 21st. Now today, you can see the difference it makes. Jumping to the moisture map for 10-hour fuels, the change is even more noticeable, but with 90-degree heat in the forecast.
Within about 1 to 4 days, all of our fuel will be essentially dried out as it was before.
On top of that, this was a large amount of rain in a short amount of time.
Not a lot of it actually stuck and absorbed into the ground and saturated into the ground. A lot of it ran off. So unfortunately, a lot of those fuels didn't get the moisture that they should have gotten.
Another unintended consequence of the rain is for something like this. Light flashy fuels that will continue to grow with these rainstorms. And that means there could potentially be more fuel to burn. So yes, with the recent rains, the reset button has been pushed. However, with the heat immediately following it, it's short-lived. And that's why fire crews say the public needs to continue being aware of the fire danger.
With this weather coming up ahead again and the 90-degree temperatures and sun, we're looking at the exact same fire potential that we had.
Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Now, a big question we're curious about after all these recent storms. Has it affected the drought? The National Weather Service has been asked that question a lot lately as well, as you can imagine. Take a look at this. Meteorologists posted this map on social media showing the 4-week change from the end of June to the end of July. Now, the areas you see in green throughout southern Utah have seen improvement. They are no longer in the exceptional or worst category of drought classification. Now, that map, of course, does not reflect this past weekend's storms. We will not know for sure how much of an impact the rain had until the latest drought monitor map is released on Thursday, a few days away. But when that is released, the Fox 13 Alert Weather Team will be sure, of course, to keep you updated. They always do every week. keep us updated.
That's right. They always do. Breck is here to do just that. Wouldn't it be nice, Breck, if we could have a happy medium between the extreme drought and these flash floods? I mean, if we could just get some regular weather, that'd be great.
Well, we are going to see temperatures kind of regulate in that we're not going to get too hot. And we actually have been seeing a break due to the storms where temperatures once again today below normal. But it seems this has been the scene here throughout the summer. When we do not have the rain, we deal with the hot temperatures and the smoke. Boy, one day a break from the storms, we bring in that westerly flow. We also are seeing that smoke coming into play. A view from our Oquirrh Mountain camera looking towards Utah County. Barely can make out the mountains, can't see Mount Timpanogos. Air quality has been a little bit more of a concern here today. Now temperatures, as mentioned, yeah, not too hot. We're still looking at 80s here along the Wasatch Front, low 90s in Ogden. But we're going to see temperatures on the rise. Now, I mentioned the sprinkler situation. Yes, we got all that rain. You can kind of put off watering your lawn, but still, it hasn't changed things too much here across the state, where the recommendation still with the phrase, strive to survive, not thrive. So keeping that grass so we don't kill it. But yeah, we're getting some help though. I'm sure, as you've been noticing, a few different shades of green on your lawn here over the past few days, looking a little healthier. But again, the recommendation throughout most of the state is just twice as we move here over the next few days. Now, looking long range, here's the scenario. Not looking good as we look at the precipitation. Looking ahead, long range, we're looking at below average precipitation. So we're moving to a dry period here, moving ahead. Temperature-wise, though, as I mentioned, it's going to get kind of hot, but it goes back down where average temperatures will be about where they should be for this time of year, maybe even a little slightly below normal looking across northern Utah. Now, that monsoon moisture, again, we turned it off. We pushed the moisture towards the east. We do have a little bit of a disturbance. It's tracking through Nevada. It looks to bring maybe some clouds towards western Utah, maybe a brief shower near the Utah-Idaho border, but we don't see those thunderstorms coming into play here as we look not only tonight, but really for the next several days. High pressure has been setting up, tracking in drier air, but that westerly flow also moving that smoke in, which should begin to exit as high pressure does move further east. We get that southwest flow, which will actually kick up the winds, and we start welcoming in another little cool front towards the end of the week. Now for tonight, it's 50s and 60s, clear skies. Tomorrow, again, sunny, a little smoky across northern and western Utah. Temperatures warming up. We're about where we should be for this time of year, which is low to mid 90s. Over towards northeastern Utah, we're looking at upper 80s, upper 90s in Moab. A little bit warmer in St. George. It's getting hot. Your expected high, 105 degrees. Now, we get up to 106 on Thursday. I mentioned that cool front kicks up the winds just a little bit, but then drops temperatures. It's a dry, cool front, which means we're going to be seeing temperatures slowly go back down to near 100 degrees as we look towards Monday and Tuesday. Northern Utah, it's 90s, close to triple digits Thursday, but we don't crack into the triple digits and we do not stay there. That weak front will drop temperatures, bring a few clouds around. Again, it will bring temperatures about where they should be for this time of year, slightly below normal. But as you look over the next 7 days, we just don't see the rain.
One of the greatest all-time movies that dealt with sports, in my opinion, was Rudy.
Absolutely.
Remember that?
Rudy.
And ever since that movie, I've always liked that name, Rudy. It's a fun one to say.
Yeah, Sean Astin was great.
And now
you'll have two Rudys.
I can cheer for two Rudys.
And Rudy Gay. Yeah, Rudy Gay has agreed to a 2-year, $12.1 million deal with the Jazz. He used their taxpayer mid-level exemption to sign Gay. The 34-year-old has played 15 seasons in the NBA, averaging nearly 17 points per game. Played with the last 4 seasons with the San Antonio Spurs. Averaged 11 points and 5 rebounds per game last season while shooting 38% from three-point range. The 6'8" forward gives the Jazz a versatile big that can play both the small and power forward positions and even fill in at center. Gay played with the Jazz guard Mike Conley for nearly 5 seasons with the Memphis Grizzlies. The Salt Lake Summer League is back at Vivint Arena. Jazz have 2 teams. The Jazz blue team playing right now against the Memphis Grizzlies. The Jazz white team will play the San Antonio Spurs at 7. The white team has 5 guys who played for the Jazz last season. Udoka Azubuike, Jarrell Brantley, Trent Forrest, Elijah Hughes, and Juwan Morgan. Real Salt Lake's coming off a scoreless tie in Houston, which has them in the 7th and final playoff spot in the West with 21 points. It was the first of 3 straight road games in just 8 days, with stops in Houston last Saturday, in LA against the Galaxy tomorrow night, and then in Portland on Saturday. Head coach Freddie Juarez said his team has a great mindset while on the road.
I think our mentality on the road has been great all season. Performances have been solid. We've given ourselves a chance to come up with a point. I think it wasn't any different in Houston. We were good in the possession. The bad part about it is, the quality chances that we created, we didn't put one away. We went into a team that's undefeated at home in a very tough environment to play on, and we put ourselves in a good situation. It would have been awesome with the 3, but we'll take that because the mentality and a lot of things they did was very good.
The Utah women's soccer team had their first practice of fall camp today under a new head coach, Hideki Nakata. He spent the last 7 seasons at Stanford, where he led the Cardinal to a pair of national championships. He wants to bring that same winning culture to Utah, and he says it starts with work ethic and team chemistry.
When I was given this opportunity 2 months ago, first thing I asked was for them to put in work from the fitness side of things, because that was the only thing that we can control. And they certainly did that. And I'm really, really thankful that I was given this opportunity to work with this group who are a really tight-knit group. Even though little that I know, I can see and I already know how close they are and how excited they are to be here. That's all I can ask for. And then if everyone's giving their entire effort, then I think we can go really far.
Utah football practices start tomorrow.
Wow.
BYU on Thursday.
Oh, boy.
So fall sports are here.
Here we go.
You know that movie, Rudy, came out in 1993, and you think, oh, that wasn't very long ago. Almost 30 years ago.
That's a long time ago. But what a great movie.
Yeah.
And what a great, signing by the Jazz
Great
today.
addition by the Jazz.
Rudy Gay.
So,
Welcome.
Rudy.
thanks, Jeff.
We'll be right back.
Let's take a look at your 7-day forecast, Bob, in case you forgot. Did you forget?
Yeah, it had slipped my mind again.
I know.
He's now paying attention.
Yeah, now I'm paying attention.
Let's go through this once again, class.
Yeah, on Wednesday it's going to be 105 in southern Utah.
Yes, and 106 on Thursday. Notice no raindrops here in southern Utah. Next 7 days, a little cooler next week. So we get rid of the monsoon moisture.
But what about northern Utah,
Let's
Breck?
go through it. How about upper 90s Thursday, a little cooler through the weekend. Also not seeing any rain, so another break.
Isn't that wonderful?
Now you know.
Now I remember.
See you back here tonight at 9.